week learning about forecasting, and I wanted to kind of point out that there is this broader community of folks thinking about forecasting, and that there are ways to get involved in that. There's a wide range of ways to get involved in that community, both to learn from it and to participate in it as an active forecast user, forecast developer, stakeholder, etc. So the Ecological Forecasting Initiative is a grassroots consortium. We have not formally incorporated yet, but it is something in our active discussions right now, that is designed with the vision statement to forecast to better understand, manage, and conserve natural systems. And so it was launched after a couple of years of strategic planning. We launched August 2nd, 2018. So we're about 5 years old officially, more like 6 or 7 unofficially, because there was definitely a good bit of strategic planning before the launch. And we've grown from, maybe 18 people to, depending on how you cut it, I generally say this community is about 1,000 people active right now. And so what are we and what do we do? So one of the main things FE does is it tries to provide a forum for people interested in ecological forecasting to find each other. So prior to launching FE, as someone who was very vocal about this area of research, I'd find people in isolated pockets of the field that were excited about prediction that were unaware of how many other people in the field were excited about prediction. And so we've started with FE in many ways started from this workshop in 2016 about ecological forecasting that led to this 2019 PNAS paper that kind of is, I sometimes refer to it as our manifesto, like a call to arms about why forecasting is important. But since then, we didn't have any meeting in 2017, but since then we've had at least one meeting of some sort every year. Obviously, we had a few that went virtual. It was really exciting last month to have our first in-person meeting since our 2019 meeting. So we run our own conferences and workshops. We also are very active in participating in other workshops and conferences more broadly. So if anyone's going to ESA week after next, FE has a session on Tuesday. FE also has a social Wednesday after the poster session at Cartside, which is a kind of food cart, food truck corral sort of area. Everyone is welcome. If you've participated in this course and are going there and just want to meet up with folks from this course, come hang out with us. If you want to meet other folks in the forecasting community, and this is the sort of thing we do usually. We have some sort of social get together to get the community talking to each other. We do sessions. Actually, last year at ESA, we set a record where there was actually 3 FE sponsored sessions. Like I ran a session on basic science research. The Canadian chapter led a session on kind of forecasting from a decision specific perspective. And then FE's DEI working group ran a session jointly with ESA's traditional ecological knowledge section on the intersection between ecological forecasting and traditional ecological knowledge. So, but we have regularly participate in a wide range of meetings. Any folks are interested in future meetings, we actually plan our calendar 2 years in advance. So our first non-North American meeting will be in Finland next year at the Finnish Meteorological Institute, followed by a meeting that Quinn is hosting at Virginia Tech in 2024. Depending on how things go with the Gordon conference schedule, we might do a small meeting in 2026 and another big one in 2027. But yeah, that's one thing, one way to get involved with it in the community. And some of the meetings are like traditional science focused, but like this year's meeting was actually an unconference. People came with ideas and it was a very hands-on, like developing new new, code bases to do this to developing new educational modules to do this thing, developing, these stakeholder engagement materials. So it wasn't just like a hackathon, but it was a very hands-on conference. It was a lot of fun. More broadly, FE is organized around what we call cross-cutting themes, where we have working groups in a wide range of different areas. With the basic philosophy, my philosophy has always been, what are the shared challenges that we face in forecasting, regardless of the thing we work on? So we've always resisted the temptation of having like a terrestrial working group and a freshwater working group and a disease working group. It's like, you all have enough meetings where you talk to each other within your silos. The whole point of FE was to bridge across those silos and make people realize that regardless of whether you're, an epidemiologist or a biogeochemist, you have challenges of working with stakeholders. You have challenges in how to incorporate forecasts and decision formally. You have challenges in the methods you use and the cyber infrastructure to support forecasts. You have challenges in making these tools accessible to a wide range of communities, of training ourselves in how to use them and using forecasts to answer these deeper theoretical questions about the predictability of the systems we study. And so FE's working groups are primarily organized around these cross-cutting themes. Most of them meet on average once a month, virtually on Zoom. They are completely open. There's not a single working group that is so invested in a particular project that you can't just jump in at any time. And they all go through cycles. Like, there may be a subset of the cyber infrastructure working group that's working on this tool right now, but there's always another subset that's gearing up for the next thing. So it's completely grassroots. So like what they work on is completely self-determined. So like I think Quinn alluded to, like the theory working group right now is in the process of like throwing a whole bunch of traditional time series and machine learning approaches at all of the neon forecasting challenges so that we could actually compare like how they do, on an apples to apples basis. Because prior to that, like everyone was submitting different types of models to the different challenges, which made synthesis harder. In addition to kind of these cross-cutting working groups, we have a very active student association, EFISA, F-E-F-I-S-A, student-led. They've actually pushed out multiple papers at this point, student-led. Postdocs are welcome if you're at that career stage. They're really great. There's a standards working group, and then we have this concept of chapters. And I'll be very honest, we have this concept of chapters because of Corinne. So Corinne got her workshop funding and started doing this, and I was like, well, instead of just doing your own thing, can we like put this like under FE's umbrella somehow? And it's like, okay, we'll create a Canadian chapter. We had no concept of chapter before Corinne created the concept of chapter. And it's been a great model. So you guys launched 4 years ago at this point, because we had the Canadian chapter, followed the next year with the launch of an Oceania chapter, that was 2 years ago. Then last year, a launch of a European chapter. And this year we're working to launch an African chapter. And if all goes according to plans, the hope is to launch a Latin American chapter next year. One thing to note about the chapters, you could be involved with them. You don't have to be involved with them. You could be involved in more than one. Like if you live in Canada but came from Europe or Africa, you can join too, or you can choose which one you wanted to. I will say, particularly outside of the Canadian one, they serve a wonderful purpose of adjusting for local time zones, because particularly getting the Oceania folks to make North American scheduled working group meetings is really challenging. I'm amazed when some of them show up at like 4 in the morning local to participate in working groups, but it's really great, and it's been a really great way of kind of growing the community. And each of the chapters do different things. So the Canadian chapter, it did a series of working groups, workshops, and then it did series of papers, and then this course and an ESA session. But the Oceania chapter is doing a whole bunch of webinars, and the European chapter is planning the next conference. So they do very different. Again, they're grassroots. They do different things. One of the things that I do think is an important thing that we do is this effort on education and diversity. So these are the prior 4 in-person classes that preceded you. There was a virtual year as well. So this is actually the 6th iteration of the course. There's a couple, do I have my animation up? Yes, a couple friendly faces. Corinne managed to basically hide in her group photo. But you got Cole up there, you've got Jake up there, having participated in last year's course. We also have a series, we do reading groups, mostly in the summer. Some of them are DI focused, some of them are more technically focused. We've got a lot of work that we've been working with the Geoscience Alliance, which is a group to increase tribal participation in the geosciences writ large, to do a lot of mentoring in the development of culturally sensitive environmental data science training modules. And then Quinn alluded to all the work Alyssa's been doing on compiling existing resources. The very first year we did the course, we actually worked with NEON and their video crew to create a series of videos on the fundamentals of ecological forecasting. There's 2 variants of that. There's like a series of like where the whole like hour-long lectures were recorded. But the more fun thing is there's also 25 videos that are 5 to 15 minutes each that are on specific topics. So like if you want to go back to learn about state space models, there's a 5-minute video. If you want to go back and learn about Kalman filters, there's a 15-minute video. Like there's a whole bunch of very topical videos there as well. We do a lot of work thinking about stakeholder engagement and policy. Throw out a couple, folks that are officially registered partner organizations with FE, but we've done policy briefs. Within the US in particular, we've been doing a series of interagency roundtables where we've met with folks from different US agencies related to environmental, and not just environmental, so we've had CDC there thinking about disease, thinking about what are the shared forecasting challenges faced across different agencies. I'll say the top 2 that emerge are cyber infrastructure and stakeholder engagement as the 2 big things. I don't think that's US unique. We've contributed a lot of reports, like the one that I showed up here is this great USGS report. I love the title, 21st Century Science for 21st Century Management. We've helped other organizations launch working groups on forecasting within themselves. I highlighted this one because it's something I run every year. Within the Ecological Society of America, we helped launch an actual forecasting award. Yeah. Well, actually, one thing I forgot to mention when I was talking about like our participation in conferences, in this year's ESA session that we'll have, 2 of the 6 speakers are actually course alumni. So, we will pay attention to the things you all do after the course. And if you do something cool, we'll be like, you should come talk about the cool thing you did based on the thing we taught you. Yeah. And then, as Quinn alluded to, there's the NEON forecasting challenge of predicting NEON site level data before they're observed. This is now out of date. I had 100 teams, it's now over 200 teams participating. And like he said, 11 courses. So it's been I use it in my courses as an educational module. Really fun thing. And it's fun because you let your students know that the other universities are participating well, and then they want to, it's one thing to compete against like professional scientists, but it's another thing like, oh, can we beat Virginia Tech in Berkeley? Like, now that's fun. My experience, you can't beat Berkeley. Those guys are hardcore. They keep winning. So just to kind of wrap up, there's a bunch of other resources and ways to get involved with FE. So there is a Slack channel. There's an FE-wide Slack channel in addition to the Canadian one you were invited to that has close to 700 people on it. Useful things in there, besides like all the working groups and challenges areas, stuff like that have areas, but there's a job board, there's a papers channel for new literature, there's a whole bunch of cool things there. There's a newsletter. This is probably the lowest barrier of entry for FE, is just to sign up for the newsletter. It comes about every 4 to 6 weeks. It tells you what we're up to. We're on social media. We have a GitHub channel with a whole GitHub area with a whole bunch of different resources. If you actually go to our, Quinn had the wrong URL. If you actually go to our correct webpage, you can sign up as a member. And not only is membership in FE free, but we actually send you stuff. So you get this mug for free just for signing up, as well as stickers. It's a metal camp mug, so it's warm, but it won't break. And I do take it camping. And yeah, like we have a blog with occasional posts. We have this concept task views. I posted one of them when I was giving one of the lectures earlier this week, but there's a whole bunch of FE task views kind of summarizing the state of different tools that the community uses. And we were very active in producing webinars. So one of the most popular things we do is a statistical methods webinar jointly with the ESA statistical ecology section. And all the webinars are largely focused around our packages. And so we'll have a developer of a specific package come and give a talk, and at the same time drop the example code into our GitHub repository and go. And so the webinar will be like half an hour lecture and then hands-on time. And we've had 800, 900 people show up for webinars before. It's one of the most impactful things we've done. And then I just wanted to quickly show you around our actual web page, just so you know that it exists. Actually, I'll make that a little smaller, because right here is the, get on the list, or get on the newsletter is just right there under about. Membership. There's the how to join link right there. And when you follow that link, you can click which working groups you're interested in, which chapters you want to be part of. The Student Association made a cool interactive Shiny map where you can find other people, and you can search that based on geography and topical areas. If you just want to find other disease forecasters in your area. There's a member directory. I get to be on top of it because I'm the director, and Anna gets to be second because she's the associate chair. None of it worked without Jody though. Yeah, information about the different working groups and chapters, information about the Neon Forecasting Challenge, resources. So, our YouTube channel, our GitHub, all our educational stuff that I alluded to before. There's some cool videos. Actually, I'll come back to a cool video before. Information about workshops, research coordination, blog. There is even a swag store if you want to get your cool FE t-shirt or mug, or I have an FE sweatshirt that I basically lived in all winter. Yeah, that's us in a nutshell. And actually, one of the first things we ever did years ago, Neon worked with us to make this cool, where is it? 2-minute advertisement for why ecological forecasting is cool, which I'll just take 2 minutes to show it just because. Oh, audio is not connected. Drat. Anyway, you can go and read it on your own, but they made a really snazzy video about it. I will stop talking and ask if anyone has any questions about the ecological forecasting community, and particularly about what your next steps might be. What? Does the shipping go to Canada? It goes globally. We definitely have taken a loss on shipping mugs to South Africa in particular. It takes like 6 weeks for a mug to get to South Africa, and it costs like $25 to send a $5 mug. But it gets through. It eventually does get through anywhere we've never had any of them returned. Cool.